Hello, good day to you. Hope you guys are everybody's doing well out there. What's up to my people out there and subscribers and different those who come across this video? Well, I got another interesting talk about. You know the one thing about one of my videos I did about the White Town thing, um, and I show whatever you see in my video. It was kind of long. This one might be. I'm gonna try not to make it too long, but I'm trying to make it very interesting. This young lady got something to say about respond to this sundown town, this that they formed out there in Arkansas. So we're gonna listen what she got to say.
Alright, so thank you for coming. This is about the arrest of a lady that was.
Oh shit! Sorry about that. Wrong video. Let me go back. Wrong video.
Seen the violence from Cincinnati.
Hold on. Check this out, and I'm gonna show you a video. What's recently happened in Florida with some white people. Black people, hold on, cause don't before you get outraged. Some of you gonna get outraged. Watch what she said. I'm gonna refute this.
Current, cultural zeitgeist that we're in this country, where being white has become a crime, and this is something I honestly didn't really appreciate or understand until a couple of years ago. If all the critical theory stuff was taught to me in college, I graduated in 2013, so just to give you a timeline, if I learned that stuff in college, I wasn't explicitly aware of it. I'll be totally honest with you. It's not something that was on my radar. I never saw myself as a white person. My identity has always been an American. I've always been an American first. Being a woman has always been important to me, and then I've over time have become more cognizant of my socioeconomic class. So those have all been, I would say, like my identity, my core identity components. But being white has never been a part of my identity. It's nothing I've ever seen as a privilege, and it's nothing I've ever, been ashamed of. Like it is what it is. I can't control it. There's nothing I can do about it. But over the last few years, I mean, George Floyd obviously kicked a lot of this off, but over the last few years, I think this has become a core issue, not just in American politics, but in European politics as well. You're seeing a lot of issues right now in the UK, in particular, where it's not even just like racism. I think a couple years ago there was definitely some overt racism, but the racism and the migrant crisis are kind of correlated there. So people aren't just being racist because they want to be racist. It's because you have groups of migrants from different countries importing different values, different beliefs, things that are competing with the rule of law in the UK, supplanting the native citizens of that country into secondary status within their own country. There's a lot of issues right with that. So yeah, maybe some of those people are racist, but I don't know that they're racist for racism's sake. And so I think a lot of things have become conflated, and in this current postmodern world we're in, I think we're moving out of, the American-led world order and into this new amorphous postmodern world order. But part of this order is deference to ideologies, and especially identity-based ideologies, and we're not having critical conversations about them. It's immediately, if you disagree with whatever the narrative is, you are a racist, xenophobe, misogynist, transphobe. Like you are just an other, and you're not even just an other in the sense that you're an inferior person. You're an other, and you're a bad person. So here's an example of what I'm talking about. So this is an NPR, a local NPR piece published by Little Rock Public Radio, talking about this group in Arkansas. And right from the headline, you can see how they describe them. They're in Arkansas.
Before I go on, black people, I don't know, those who discern and hear what this woman's saying, you're going to pick up on what I call the white code in her language. And some of you know what I'm talking about because you've been around some Caucasian people that know how to do this, and they're liberals. Watch this.
White white supremacist group. Now, I'm going to share in a moment an excerpt from a Sky News piece that was shot for these people. A journalist from Sky News went to the group's facilities, I don't even know what you'd call it, their property. They went to their property in Arkansas and interviewed several of the members and shot film. And nothing about them is white supremacist. If anything, they're like Amish minus, the bonnets and, the horses and the buggies. They're just very, or even they're kind of like the Mormons when the Mormons were building Utah, in the mid-1800s. So I don't see anything necessarily white supremacist about them. They're not wearing white, hats. They're not lynching people. They're not actively trying to hurt people like, you saw in the South, during the 1950s and 60s and whatnot. So to equate this group of people with definitely a bad part of American history, I'm not trying to glorify that at all, but to conflate the two, I think highlights the problem we're facing. You're not a Nazi just because you agree with some of the Trump administration's policies. You're not a fascist because you agree with some of the Trump administration's policies. You're not a white supremacist from wanting to segregate yourself, self-segregate, voluntarily move yourself to a piece of property where you share common bond, common ancestry, common values with a group of people. There's no shame in honestly wanting to leave crime-ridden cities and just go be out in the woods and kind of build your own thing and do your own thing. And we're seeing a lot of violence now in cities. I'm sure you've probably seen the violence from Cincinnati, racially motivated violence.
See the coded language in that? Racially violence. But the man who started the fight, they didn't miss this part. But I'm going to show you what happened in Florida. And this was a bunch of them going at themselves. And what the sheriff said about this group of people. And it was the guy who started with the black people that caused the run. I'm not excusing what they did to the other people, but this is where this piggyback off of. Watch this.
And so this is happening. So it's not like the racism, it's being portrayed as like this one-way thing with history kind of overlaying. The assumption is, all white people are evil and they want to be slave masters and then we want to go back to Jim Crow South, and that couldn't be anything from the truth. I think the average person just wants to be left alone and live their lives and raise their kids, and they want safety and security. And right now we live in an operating environment where...
Ma'am, so does black people. Black people want the same thing, but they don't want to be gentrified from their neighborhoods. They don't want people being Karens and called on them when they're not doing something, when they're being productive, when they working a job, when they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. And this chick is clearly clueless that there's still sundown towns in America.
You can commit crimes, you're not going to go to jail, and then, if something happens to you, like you're on the hook. I saw an interview with one of the victims of the violence in Cincinnati, and one of the perpetrators of it had committed crimes before, and she was like, why wasn't this guy in jail? And it's because we have all these soft on crime policies, letting people do whatever they want, not being held accountable. So I don't even see this, honestly, as racism per se. It's just people are fed up. They're tired and they just want to live their lives in peace. So if you put some rules and boundaries to protect yourself and make it possible for you to live in peace, I see nothing wrong with that. So my interpretation, that's kind of what this group is doing. Yeah, there's the racial element to it, but again, I also don't see crime and wanting to preserve.
Another thing that she probably didn't, so that even when the interviewer was asking what is about the Hitler situation, and the founder, what did he say about Hitler? That it was blown out of proportion. So she's agreeing with what they talk about. Watch the coded language, people. Watch how they code this up. Yeah, everybody wants a safe environment. Everybody wants to safe You know, nobody should have to jump on somebody or crime written regardless of race, color, and creed. You know, sometimes the victims are black on white, or white on black. It's a certain thing. Period.
Identity and wanting to be around other people, and I will show you in a few moments as well another example that emulates that. But you know, one of the things that really caught my attention in this piece as well is just how this is being framed in the media, and that's really what I want to get at this video. I don't want to defend these people necessarily. I don't want to, you know, say that they're evil either. You know, I just want to highlight how this is being framed in the media, how we're looking at it, and how stuff like this is shaping race issues and how we interact with one another in culture. So, you know, right off the bat, something that really bothers me about how this piece is written is she writes, the author, it's a young woman her name's Josie, and so she writes, "The group was on Sky News back in July talking about preserving their culture," in quotes. So I find offense to that, because you wouldn't write that or talk about that with regard to any other community in the United States. America is built on immigrant populations. We're built on people who come to America. We're a melting pot. You come, you bring your culture, but you also assimilate. And so you have a lot of hyphenated Americans. You have Italian Americans, Irish Americans, Polish Americans, Indian Americans, Asian Americans. You have all sorts of different groups of people who have come here. And so you would never see a piece like this published in the news that talks about the group was on Sky News back in July talking about preserving their culture. You wouldn't see culture with reference to Indians, with reference to Koreans, or the Irish, or Italians, or Polish people. You would never suggest that their culture doesn't exist, because...
Okay. Now, you know, you can take that either way, but this is, you know, anytime subconsciously, I've always explained this, there's a segment of white people like her that they don't get it. They just don't get it. But okay, but here's my solution to them. I got a couple videos, and for people like her, let me see what her channel is. For Amanda Claiborne. This is for people like Amanda Claiborne who think like this, because she's probably a so-called liberal, but she's trying to sway one way. But you black people who have the sense enough, disciple and code that out, and people in general, you watch this.
Don't let ugly stains from moss, mold, mildew, and algae steal your home shine. Clean the easy way with
93.7% of New Hampshire's population is considered.
Hold on. This is for people like Amanda.
Number 3. West Virginia. West Virginia is a bit strange. I thought they'd be higher on this list because there's very little diversity in West Virginia's cities, and even less in the rural areas, mountains, and hollows. It's well known for its rugged landscape, which includes the Appalachian Mountains. It also has a deep history in coal mining, which played a significant role in its economy and heritage. The settlement of present-day West Virginia began in the mid-1700s with Scottish, Irish, and German settlers from Pennsylvania. The Scottish and Irish cultures deeply influenced the state, especially in folk music. Today, 94.4% of West Virginia's population is identified as white. Number 2, Maine. If you've ever been to New England, you're probably not surprised, especially when it comes to Maine. As with the other states to the far north, it's cold. There's just not a lot of urban life, and they just don't have the draw of many of America's other bustling cities. If you look at Maine's largest city, Portland, they have less than 70,000 residents. The entire metro area has about 562,000 people. Portland, Maine's white population is 82.3%, which is pretty high for a single city. The Pine Tree State has a population that is 95.4% white. Now, before we get to number 1, if you've been paying attention, most of these states are to the far north, with the exception of Kentucky and West Virginia. And every one of them is adjacent to another predominantly white state, except for Iowa, which shows us that there's a large concentration of white folks in these regions as a whole. Number 1, Vermont. Look at that. New England has 3 states in the top 4 on this list. Remember everything I said about New Hampshire? Well, it's the same in Vermont. They're right next to each other and always show up close on all kinds of lists, whether it's crime stats, school grades, or economies. They're so similar they almost could be one state. In fact, many people get confused as to which one is which because they look so similar in shape. But just remember that Vermont looks like a V. Like New Hampshire, Vermont was settled by the English, Irish, and Scottish, with a fair share of French Canadians from Quebec. Today, 95.6% of Vermont's population is white. If you're still wondering why all these states are so white, for the majority of them, they are less urbanized, and there was no pull to these states in more recent years. There were not as many jobs, history, heritage, and culture to attract minority populations here. Simply put, people like being around others with the same culture and background, and they tend to migrate where there's more people like them. Alright, that wraps up today's video. I hope you enjoyed it and learned something in the process.
So there you have it right there. Well, but here's another one.
If you're looking to escape diversity, boy do I have the list for you. As a melanin-challenged individual myself, I've spent years researching the whitest havens in America, where pale faces abound and ethnic eateries are scarce. After exhaustive analysis of census data, public records, and anecdotal evidence from my pasty friends, I present to you the top 10 whitest states in the US of A. Fair warning, you may want to pack some sunscreen. The reflective power of these states' populations could cause temporary blindness. But for those seeking refuge from cultural enrichment, here are your best bets for blending in with the mayonnaise-colored masses. Here is a brief history of white settlement in America. When our pasty European ancestors first settled this great nation of ours, they were pretty picky about who they let in. If you weren't white, Christian, and had a funky accent, you need not apply. A melting pot we were not. Fast forward a few centuries, and while things have improved, there are still some states holding on to their lily-white roots. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, these places remain predominantly Caucasian. We're talking 85% or more. How did they end up so vanilla? Well, a combination of historical settlement patterns and, let's face it, some intentional segregation. Take New Hampshire, for example. Founded by the English, Irish, and Scots, this state is 94% white. Same story in Vermont, Maine, and Idaho. Lots of Anglo-Saxon and Germanic immigrants way back when. Not so much diversity now. Wyoming and Montana were popular with cattlemen of English and Scottish stock and remain over 92% white today. Out in the heartland, Iowa and Nebraska were settled by Scandinavians, Germans, and the Dutch. Mormons and Quakers even made their way to Iowa. Fast forward and over 90% of residents are white in both states. Not exactly a Benetton ad, but for those looking to surround themselves with folks of a similar ethnic persuasion, these places fit the bill. Of course, times are changing, and the demographics in some of these states may start to shift, but for now, they remain predominantly white, a relic of their Anglo-centric roots. Being from one of the whitest states in America, I can...
So as we hear here, what is the point of making out that white town when you have a whole state? This is what I was saying. You have states that are still predominantly white. You have states, and he's telling you, if this really bothers the subconscious of people, and you don't have to worry about no urban league being out there, you don't have to worry about no racial quota out there. It's mostly you. All these states is mostly you. But you don't want to share it. But you in the cities and towns where you murmur and complain, but you won't go. But some of the people who have this issue with among the white people, but they won't go out these areas.
Confirm that we revel in our paleness. We don't tan, we burn. We don't blend in. We stick out like sore thumbs on beach vacations. But hey, at least we save money on sunscreen. Let's get into the 10 whitest states. A population of pasty complexions. Coming in at number 10, we have Nebraska. With a population that's 88.1% white, you know this Midwestern state is keeping it vanilla. After all, their most popular baby names are Oliver, Henry, and Liam. Montana lands at number 9, unsurprisingly full of flaxen-haired, blue-eyed folk. Originally settled by Germans and Italians, Montana's early cattle ranchers were mostly English and Scottish. You can't get much whiter than a red-headed Scotsman. Vermont and New Hampshire are tied for 8th place, both with populations over 92% white. As twins in both geography and demographics, these New England states were settled by English, Irish, and Scottish immigrants. Their shared culture of craft beer, maple syrup, and Subarus proves they're as white as the driven snow. West Virginia comes in at number 7, with 95% of its population white. Nestled in the Appalachians, West Virginia was largely settled by British, Irish, and German immigrants. Today you'll find descendants of those early settlers proudly displaying Confederate flags, listening to country music, and wearing camouflage, all while remaining oblivious to their own whiteness. And the whitest state of all, Maine at 94.4% white. Maine's largest city, Portland, is an incredible 91.27% white. Originally inhabited by British colonists, Mainers today are rugged individualists who love lobster rolls, lighthouses, and LL Bean. They are the palest of the pale, embracing long, dreary winters and avoiding the sun at all costs. All hail the porcelain-skinned citizens of Maine, the whitest state in America. Being from the Midwest, I always thought we had the lock on whiteness, but apparently New England is the true bastion of pale. As the top 3 whitest states, Vermont, Maine, and New Hampshire read like a who's who of white Anglo-Saxon Protestants. New Hampshire was settled by the usual suspects, English, Irish, and Scottish immigrants, looking to escape whatever fresh hell was happening in the old country at the time. These days, a whopping 93.9% of New Hampshire is white, making it a veritable sea of khakis and polo shirts. The state motto is live free or die, which I can only assume refers to their staunch opposition to any seasoning beyond salt and pepper. Not to be outdone, Vermont clocks in at 94.2% white. Apart from the Green Mountains, Vermont is best known for maple syrup, Ben & Jerry's ice cream, and Bernie Sanders, the latter of whom is basically their patron saint. Vermont winters are long, cold, and about as diverse as a Friends episode. If you're looking to escape diversity, Vermont is your promised land, and the whitest state in America goes to Maine. At 94.6% white, Maine gives new meaning to the term lobster red. Maine's largest city, Portland, is 91.27% white, making it whiter than mayonnaise on Wonder Bread. The state's popularity as a summer destination amongst the preppy set further cements its status as a Caucasian utopia. Pack your Sperry's and salmon shorts. We're going to Maine. In summary, head to northern...
Before, I don't want to make this too long, but she said that about the Cincinnati incident, right? Watch this. This happened in Florida. Because when it comes to them, they can become them black savages. Let's see what happened here.
Hello everyone, thank you for being with us today. I'm going to take just a couple of minutes to explain to you an ongoing problem that we have done everything in the world we could to correct. We started out with education. In addition to education, we tried to be friendly. We tried to coach. We tried to counsel. We pled. We begged. We did everything we could in order to get people to comply on the lakes, on the chain of lakes, and specifically Lake Winterset, and even more specifically in the area they call the Point. We realize you go out on the boat to have fun. We realize you go out to be with your family. But there's a few people who do things that's so outrageous that it shocks the community. And let me give you some examples of conduct that we saw prior to just this weekend. And at one point in time, I did a video or a piece and showed a picture of someone defecating in someone's yard. And I got all of this, but they were in the bushes and all that. You're in somebody's backyard going to the bathroom. And then we've got these pictures. Okay? Now, I don't know if he said, hey, let me help you out of the tree. The private property sign, I guess they thought that was only for the bird. Maybe you should say, hello, Mom, what do you think? Or, this is up close and personal. Or, doing? You playing hide and seek? That's interesting. Or maybe she's saying, do you need a beer? But she's whispering it to him real quiet like. You know what I'm saying? So this conduct is happening in the middle of the afternoon in people's backyards where they're trespassing, or on a boat where she's standing in the water adjacent to people's homes, where there are people who are trying to enjoy their own life, where there are people with children, and this kind of sexual activity is happening in the public. So we've tried to work with people, but the game's over. And I'll tell you why the game's over. I want to show you this sign. What we're going to talk about today happened on a lot where we have at least 15 of these signs. It's in an area of a vacant lot where they pull up to, and instead of staying in the water, where there's a loophole, as long as their feet are in the water, they can be at your back door. But then they get up onto people's property. You see, this sign says, by order of the sheriff. This is not a suggestion. So a week ago, we received a 911 call where there were a group of individuals who wants to be, again, being raucous and out of control and fighting. By the time the deputies arrived, they had fled. We chased down one boat, and there were two people there that said, hey, yeah, a couple of guys had a fight, but it's broken up and it's cool, and they wouldn't cooperate. But our Marine Patrol folks, who are the very best, got into this investigation because they created a significant disturbance once again. So I want to tell everyone, so mom and dad and friends can be very impressed. Here's who we've arrested. Now let me go over this for you. These groups of people were at one time friends. And apparently back in March, there's a local bar called the El Rodeo Bar where a fight occurred, and there were some criminal charges filed. Well, some of the group didn't like the fact that there were criminal charges filed, and we're looking into tampering with evidence. But now, a week ago, at this disturbance, these folks kind of ended up at the point. And it started with talking to each other and screaming and hollering at each other. And then they got to fighting up on the land. Oh, they were fighting. If you can see where part of the scrum occurred, there's one guy laying on the ground knocked out between two of our no trespassing signs. So our investigation took us to arrest them. Now we have Tim Gooding here.
Look at the
He's
suspects.
our sucker puncher. You know, he'll run up behind you and knock you out cold.
Look at the
He
suspects.
knocked another person out
Amanda,
into the water.
people like Amanda, look at the
In
suspects.
addition to that, this Peyton Ely, who's 19, we charged him by affidavit a couple of months ago when he called up Uber Eats, ordered some beer, and walked through people's yard out to the road to get the beer to go back to the lake. Listen to me, folks. This is long past a joking matter. We've coached, we've pled, we've begged, and once again,
They
you
begged.
see what we got. A bunch of kids have gone to jail. These guys are 23, 19, 21. Richard's 40. He's old. He's way old enough to know better. 22, 21, 21, and 17. Gavin Gooding is Tim Gooding's juvenile brother, so he picked up in addition to riot, disorderly conduct, affray. He got a contributing to the delinquency of a minor. Nate Land, and once again, all these folks were friends at one time. The bottom line to this is you go, oh, what's the big deal? I want you to think about this. I want you to think that you go home this afternoon or this weekend, and you're in your backyard, and these folks, whether they're in boats or vehicles, pull up to the edge of your property, put on their music to blast, using the F word, with your children there, and that goes on all afternoon. And then they roll out in a big mob into your yard and fight. And you know, if you're not fighting, you can do other things that start with an F, like this in the yard. We're over it. Now I'm going to give you one last warning. Our Marine Patrol people are going to be out there. Some you're going to see, some you're not going to see. But write this down in your little book. We're going to put people in jail this weekend for conduct that we previously tried to warn you about. So, go home and get your bond money together right now. You can carry it in your pocket. It'll help you get out of jail quicker. We're going to take you to jail, but also bring enough money, because we're going to tow your truck, we're going to tow your car, we're going to tow your wave runners, we're going to lock y'all up until you figure out that you can't misbehave in the community, that you can't fight, that you can't knock people unconscious. It's over, folks. It's over. You've taken advantage of our good nature of trying to allow people to enjoy the waterway, because I think it's important that you're with your family on the water doing family things.
And guess what? Guess what? Who they were, guys? They all PC people, palm, as they say, palm-colored people who had the boats that did this. Where's J.D. Vance calling this out at? Where is Venezuela calling this stuff at? Where's Anton Daniels calling this stuff at? Where is the Hodge twins calling this stuff at? And where's, so it's okay for them to do that, but no one says that about that. This happened in Florida. This happened, and guess who? Most black people, they don't have boats to do that. So narrow it down. Was at the bar, pickup trucks and boats and wave runners. There's some black people that have it, but it wasn't them. Where is to call them animals and savages when it comes to this behavior? They did to other people. What you hear what the sheriff was saying? They were swearing and cussing. Then he had the video where they actually showing they going at it. One group of white people versus another group of white people. Isn't that the same thing? Savages playing the music, cuss words, fighting and everything. You won't see this on none of the social media. But yet, people like Amanda will point that out. Won't point it out. This is why some black people call this out. Because no matter who's doing, no one's excusing someone harming another victim. But when it start looking like a certain color, look like it's, and don't know the whole story, why it happened. Did you know there was a young black youth in California? Someone covered this. That was with his white friend. And he got jumped because they was picking on his white friend. And he got beat up. And where's the man to say something about that? And it was a group of palm-colored people in Simi, California, had a reputation, but you don't hear none of these podcasters or the vice president say anything about that. It's kind of funny, isn't it? But they established the same savage behavior, what happened in Cincinnati on this young black youth out there who was protecting his friend, that they were picking on. And these young men had the gall, they had the reputation, and they ran to the security guard. The security guard didn't do nothing. The police didn't do nothing. Or nothing about it. And then it was then on Phil's channel, he said that it was a bunch of white girls that jumped this black girl in the same city in Simi Valley, California. They were in 6th grade and nothing happened. So for the people like Amanda, yeah, you know, maybe you should. Because every time when it seems like it's the same story. And for the people that act like what in the Black Tethers and Coons, cover this. You won't call them out, will you? But you call somebody else out. And I'm not justifying either situation, because wrong is wrong, but we so quick to judge. But did you know, and I'm not excusing what, because those men did have a record, but so did these people had a record too. You think Amanda's going to call that out? You think Reverend Schwagner's going to call that out? Or any other people that make us, and she said she ain't seen nothing wrong? And see how the way they code things out? And she tries to say, well, I don't want this. That's that liberal talk that black people talk about. That's that two-faced talk that the indigenous people talk about. The white man he speaks a two-edged sword. It's one thing, you say one thing, but you act the other. And I don't mean to make it seem like it's a race thing, but this is obviously, when it's righteous behavior, ignorant behavior is ignorant behavior. But it's something when they're used to the media, when she says something about the culture, yes, they do. Other cultures, they do. But it's like, oh my goodness, you're picking on us. Now you have a whole state and you still ain't happy. I just showed you 3 or 4, 5, 6 states from these 2 different channels. That you don't have to be bothered with another group of people. You don't have to be around another group of people. You don't have to just celebrate your European heritage. If these other people, you don't have to worry about, okay, I'm a white woman, I'm a white male, I'm going to get discriminated. When you have 5, 6 states, and you can't use that reverse discrimination. You have the stuff. What's up? But yet but people like that, they'll find something to complain. Well, I didn't really. Yes, you did. It is what it is. And this is the thing that black people have talked about. And when I didn't say, I think something wrong. Yes, it is true about the Amish and the Mennonites and that was because of religious reasons. You're right, but they're not out here saying that they want an all-white town. They never said something like that. The Mennonite or the Amish or the Quakers or whatever. This group of people did. Hey, it's just that you're afraid because you're insecure. That's what it is. And if the people who are white don't agree with you, that really bugs the crap out of you. Because they know that it don't make no sense. There are white people know that's dumb when they see the reality in their little town, someplace in America, in their state. You have from a white town. I just showed you. Then you want to complain. But what happens when someone that look like you do the same savage behavior as those people in Cincinnati? Are they savages then? See, this is the thing we talk about. This is the contrary stuff. And I don't mean to make, but and it's dumb. I mean, I'm not, like I said, do what you want to do. You're right. No one will see no problem with it. But you know what is funny is when black people do something like that and other people start, then they try to throw a monkey wrench in it. Just into the present day like they did in the past. But see, Amanda won't tell you about stuff like that. Won't tell you about Tulsa, Oklahoma or Plantation, Florida. She won't tell you about what them people did in upstate New York. When people wanted to be at peace. But it was some of the palm-colored people that came over and make it a false accusation that a black male touched the white woman, and majority or something was stolen or somebody was robbed, and it will eliminate the whole area. When have you seen black people in the history of America came in and just liberate a whole white area, burnt down their house? What did black people do? Just now have there's been situations where they got something, anybody get robbed or unfortunately get, attacked. There have been incidents like that, but that's a human behavior. It could have been somebody white doing that sexually assault you. SAU, as they say. But you say, but who's out there putting little children that look like you in bondage and trying to do adult things to little children? Who's the real enemy? And you don't know who the people is. Some people have that kind of behavior. It's easy to point out someone that look opposite of you. It's easy to do that. And some people they're notorious for doing that. But you don't call out the evil on both hands. And then when it comes to someone that look like your people, oh well, the boys just being boys. Oh, they was just clowning around. Oh, this whatsoever. What did we say among our people? Oh well, those young men. Oh, they just being young men. Come on. But when it's reversed, and then not only no one had no problem with them, but when you see what it was, they had a Nazi mentality. I don't agree with that. Yeah. Do your research on why Hitler did what he did. And this is what they agree with. This is what they agree in Ukraine. This is what they agree in Europe. I'm not saying what they did over, which is wrong. Migrants trying to push their agenda. That's wrong. That's true. I agree with that. But look for your background before you do something. And really, yeah, it's okay for you to have your Europe, your go or whatever, make it all white. But don't you dare come to the culture of these countries and come to Mexico. Don't come into Africa bringing your whiteness and your gentrification with it. Don't keep your Western mindset over there. We don't have no problem. People don't have no problem with it. That's the problem. Any group of people on the planet don't have no problem with living with other people. We don't have no problem. But when you move, when y'all come into the black neighborhoods, yeah, you do some things, but you turn it out and hike up the things. Then you change the laws to fit your way. And I'm not saying and try to live fair. You get on the job. When you work alongside of us, you can't stand us. You undermine us. You took our gifts. Yeah. So really, there's some black people who don't like the ignorant behavior like any other people. Don't like the situation with the current administration. But guess what? They voted for it. Now MAGA's turned on each other. Because deep down subconsciously, some of you still see race, but you try to hide it. I don't see myself as European. I'm American. Yes, you're American. But let's be realistic. Majority of people from all races see a race. And they think, ooh, I feel comfortable. But when they look at someone that looks like myself, well, maybe that's the reality. But anyway, I didn't want to drag this on too long. But see the double standard, America. Now these were some white people beating up on white people in a predominantly nice area of Florida, starting trouble, just like they did with the Mobile, Alabama situation a few years back. There were white people doing this. But they don't call them savages. Funny. how that works. Double standard America. Alright guys, take care, be blessed, see you on the next video.